The updates to HTC's flagship smartphone bring enhancements to what was already a pretty great offering. So, what exactly has changed from one to the other? Well, it's Joshua Vergara from Android Authority. What's going on, everybody? And this is the HTC One M8 versus the original HTC One M7. Now, while the general design language of both phones is very similar, the latest iteration is even more refined, with more curves and rounded corners. While the award-winning all-metal design of the 2013 edition was fantastic, the brushed metal of the 2014 device adds another level of sophistication to what was already a classy design. With a display that is 0.3 inches larger, the M8 is definitely the bigger phone overall, and the width didn't increase by much, thankfully, making the larger device still quite comfortable to hold. Despite the added weight to 160 grams from the 143 of the original HTC One, it actually sits even more snugly in the hand thanks to those rounded corners and the more smooth sides because the aluminum material has been made to wrap around the device. So HTC has always come up with some great designs for their smartphones, and while they may not have changed anything very significantly this time around, no one should really find anything to complain about in the update still. In the display, HTC has always been relatively conservative with their display sizes, as the original HTC One had a 4.7-inch screen when other companies were starting to release 5-inch flagships. But with the latest edition, the size does get bumped up to that 5-inch trope, but it is still smaller compared to some of the more recently announced flagships, as continuing the trend. The increased display size results in a drop in pixel density from 469 to 441 ppi, but no one should really see any noticeable difference. And once again, it's a beautiful Super LCD 3 display with 1080p resolution, making viewing angles as great as always and colors popping out quite nicely in this more colorful version of Sense. Underneath the hood, we get the update to the quad-core Qualcomm Snapdragon 801 processor, clocked in at 2.3 GHz in the West and 2.5 GHz in the East, so you get the best processing package currently available, which is of course expected from a flagship device. HTC has worked hard to reduce the heaviness of its Sense UI, and the device should fly through the user interface and easily handle anything you can throw at it, and this pretty much did hold up in our testing. On the other hand, the HTC One 2013 features a quad-core Snapdragon 600 processor clocked in at 1.7 GHz, and it's still definitely a very able performer with 2 GB of RAM that help with the multitasking. Basically, the difference in performance comes just because of the year-to-year change in the available hardware. The 600 was the best available at its point, and now the 801 is the best available in the current space today. In terms of hardware, the HTC One M7 of last year boasted specs very similar to the Samsung Galaxy S4 and arguably had the better design, but a lot of consumers mentioned their reasoning for choosing the latter was because of expandable storage availability, a feature that hasn't been available in an HTC flagship for a while. Luckily, that changes with this new version of the HTC One, as 16 or 32 GB options get the additional benefit of micro SD card support, which might be the tipping point in favor of the HTC One M8. The battery life has been bumped up from 2300 mAh to 2600 mAh, and the Snapdragon 801 should be able to make battery consumption even better, so we should see a better battery performance from one to the other. And as far as those boom sound speakers go, the great front-facing speaker design that was originally introduced in the HTC One M7 continues here, but the amplifiers in the speakers have been enhanced to provide an even louder experience with an even better soundstage for mids and lows. HTC did stick to the 4 ultra-pixel camera of the HTC One from last year, and while it had its hits and misses, its low-light photography was actually pretty undeniably good. But this time around, the processing has been improved so that all other photography gets the same types of enhancements. While the same camera does make a return this time, it does get a dual LED flash. And what is also very interesting is the inclusion of that second rear camera called the Duo camera, in which it takes the depth of field data and adds it into the photo in a hardware solution that allows you to go into the picture and edit it in order to pick your focal points in a very easy way. Having a hardware solution this time around eliminates the need for the processing time that more software-based solutions use, and in our testing it was actually very nice to use and very easy, and is one of the real distinguishing features of the HTC One M8 camera. And if selfies are important to you, you do get an enhanced 5-megapixel sensor on the front with a 88-degree wide-angle lens. The camera app has also been very vastly improved, more opting for simplistic elegance rather than just a full-featured set. It is very easy to use, but if you delve into the settings a little bit more, you'll find that there are a lot of options for manual shooting. And finally, in software, the Sense UI does make its return and is updated to Sense 6.0 on the HTC One M8, which is now on top of Android 4.4 KitKat. The usual array of software features, including blink feed, do make a comeback, but things have seemed to have been simplified a little bit, as there's no longer the paginated format of the original blink feed in the HTC One M7, and is now a more of a traditional scroll with a bunch of rectangles made for all of the consolidation of your social media applications and also of your news sources. As far as the aesthetics go, you do get that new power widgets underneath the notification dropdown, and also all of the icons seem to be about the same but are consolidated a little bit closer together to accommodate that larger screen. And also, some gesture-based features are available in the new M8 version, including the ability to just move the phone up to your face and be able to activate the phone by double tapping on the screen, or in a horizontal position pressing down on the volume key in order to turn on the camera, just to name a couple. And so there you have it for this quick look at the HTC One M8 versus the HTC One M7 of last year. It's undeniable that there is a good update from one to the other here, and you can get your hands on the new HTC One right now as it is on sale. If you were looking for a even better experience from the greatly received HTC One of last year, then you don't have to look any further than the one that was just released today. So keep it tuned to Android Authority for all of the best coverage on the HTC One M8 for future focused videos, comparisons, and the like, because Android Authority is your source for all things Android.